Part 12. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 111. The Taoist priest is wearing a blue robe and looks very young. He looks like he is no more than 20 years old. His eyebrows are like ink paintings, his face is like peach petals, and there is a red tear mole under his eyelids, which makes him charming and charming. He does not look like a Taoist priest. Ju Yu noticed someone staring at him, raised his eyes, glanced past Gu Huizi, and paused on Su Wan's face. He bowed and pointed the way for Gu Huizi and Su Wan. Go forward and there is a sycamore tree. Turn left and you will find the dining hall. Thank you. Taoist Master Su Wan saw Ju Yu's wide sleeve slipping down as he saluted, revealing his thin wrists, which were wearing a string of unique bracelets. One hand grabbed her collar and pulled her away. Gu Huizi, you want to strangle me? Su Wan threw his hand away angrily, straightened her collar, and touched her painful neck. Looking back, she saw that the Taoist priest had walked away. She asked curiously, do you know this Taoist priest? Do not know. Su Wan rolled her eyes, stingy guy. Gu Huizi remained silent and walked all the way to the dining hall. Mo Chen brought the peony lettuce and bean yellow pics over. These two dishes are famous far and wide. Many pilgrims who go to the National Temple come here specially to eat these two dishes. I came quite early, but I only got the last portion. Su Wan looked over curiously. Gu Huizi took clean chopsticks, put a piece of peony lettuce in her bowl. This is the dewy peony petals picked by Xiaodao Chang in the morning, wrapped in thin flour, fried in an oil pan until crispy, and tastes delicious. Not bad, give it a try. Su Wan took a small bite and knew the secret. Wrapping in flour not only preserved the nutrients in the dish, but also prevented the lettuce and flower petals from being fried. It tasted crispy on the outside and tender on the inside, with a mouthful of floral aroma. Gu Huizi put a bean yellow pick on her. This is made from beans ground into powder and then dried. When eating, roll the bean noodles into thin strips and cook them with green mustard and cabbage. They are sold outside, but it's not as delicious as the ones here. I don't know what method they use to make the fish taste fresh and smooth. If you think it tastes light, you can add some sauce. He pushed the sauce plate over. Su Wan took a bite of the bean huang sticks that looked like noodles. As Gu Huizi said, it was as fresh and smooth as fish meat, and the green mustard greens were very tender. Although the taste was lighter, it retained the flavor of the food itself. It's delicious. Su Wan smiled, her eyebrows arched. This is considered longevity noodles. That's right. Gu Huizi raised his hand and brushed the fine hair on her cheek behind her ear. Su Wan tilted her head uncomfortably. Her bun seemed to be crooked. He helped it with his hand. She touched her temples uncomfortably and continued to eat the bean yellow picks with her head lowered. Mo Chen on the side stared at the extra jade hairpin on Su Wan's head, and glanced at his master with his small eyes. He was sipping tea calmly, as if he was not responsible for secretly giving the gift. The tea in the Taoist temple is wild tea leaves picked at the top of the mountain. It has a mild and bitter taste and leaves a sweet taste in your mouth after drinking it. After Su Wan finished eating, she still felt a little unsatisfied. She took a sip of tea while holding the tea bowl. The bitter taste in her mouth made her wrinkle her nose, but it relieved the greasy taste in her mouth. Shall we go home? Su Wan took a look at the sky. The sun was shining brightly outside. Should we go back after taking a rest? Go back after taking a rest. Gu Huizi led her to the mountain behind the Taoist temple. Su Wan saw at a glance a century-old tree with lush branches and leaves, covered with red ribbons, carrying everyone's wishes. Gu Huizi, did you bring me here to make a wish? Su Wan had been to the temple in the 21st century, but when Guanyin Bodhisattva celebrated his birthday, there would be a tree in the temple, and pilgrims would hang a red ribbon. Bless your family with peace and joy. But she didn't expect that Gu Huizi would bring her here. He didn't seem to be a superstitious person, but because of the legend of the immortal spring, he specially gave her some sweet and delicious spring water, had a fast meal, and then made a wish. She wanted to say that the wishing tree only comforted the soul of the person who made the wish and would not be useful. But Suwon couldn't bear to brush off Gu Huizi's kindness. Follow the custom. Gu Huizi handed over the red ribbon and a pen dipped in ink. Suwon took the ribbon and started writing casually. After she finished writing, she dried the ink and threw it to the tree with a graceful movement. Gu Huizi took the pen from her hand and asked, "Where do you want to go?" "There is no place I want to go." Suwon thought about going back to Xinghua village tomorrow and sighed, "I want to go back early today and have something to say to my grandmother." "You go back to your room and have a rest first." "I have something to do, so go back as soon as you go." Gu Huizi told Mo Chen to take Suwon back to his room. Suwon followed Mo Chen and left. Gu Huizi picked up a stone and threw it to the tree. A red ribbon fell down. He stretched out his hand to catch it and saw two words written in horizontal strokes. "You guess?" Gu Huizi laughed, added a line of words, and tied it to the branch. Suwon was not in the habit of taking a nap, and she had just finished lunch and couldn't fall asleep at all. She took Mo Chen with her and wandered around the Taoist temple. "Tell Gu Huizi that it's my birthday today." Suwon suddenly had an absurd idea, and Gu Huizi went back to Beijing to celebrate her birthday with her. "I didn't say it." Mo Chen waved his hands to deny it. "When is his birthday?" "Mid-Autumn Festival." After Mo Chen finished speaking, he felt like he was about to suffer. Sure enough, when he saw Suwon smiling like a little fox with a successful look on his face, he broke into a cold sweat with a guilty conscience, and explained dryly, "We all need to find out the details of our employers." So he knew Gu Huizi's birthday. Suwon didn't pursue it and touched her chin. If Gu Huizi was going to take the exam, his birthday would have to be celebrated in the Gongyuan. "I was thinking about giving Gu Huizi his birthday in advance before his exam." Suddenly, Suwon moved her nose and smelled a strong medicinal fragrance. The scent of this medicine was very familiar. She had smelled it on Emperor Zheng. Suwon's eyebrows twitched. Unable to suppress her curiosity, Suwon walked over following the scent of the medicine. "When I came to a courtyard, I saw the Taoist priest I had just met, opened the door and came out." Suwon's heart skipped a beat, and she smiled slightly and said, "Taoist priest, what a coincidence, I meet you here." Juyu nodded slightly and closed the door quietly, as if to block the scent of medicine overflowing from the room. "This is where fellow Taoists live. Are lay people lost?" Juyu's eyes fell involuntarily on Suwon's face, as if he was looking at someone through her. "I'm just taking a walk to eat." Suwon was keenly aware of his inspection and touched her face. "Do I look like an old friend you know?" Juyu said very calmly, "You are like my sister. Her parents died when she was young. I took her to Beijing to escape the famine and they got separated." Suwon was startled, not expecting this to be the reason, and said sarcastically, "It is destined." "Destined," Juyu repeated it, finding it interesting, and smiled lightly. The bright red tear mole became vivid, making his appearance even more charming. He took off the bracelet from his wrist and put it in Suwon's hand. "Give it to a destined person." Suwon subconsciously caught it and saw the word 9 desires engraved on the beads of the bracelet. A memory flooded into her mind, her pupils tightened, and she looked stunned. The author has something to say. "Good night, babies, see you tomorrow, okay?" The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Baobao. Chapter 112. Is he the 9 desires? 9 desires occupies a lot of scenes in the later stages of the book Hegemony. His lost sister was found by Su Mingxiu, and Juyu was willing to be used by Su Mingxiu. Later, when the prince and Su Mingxiu fought with Gu Huizi, it was Juyu who helped him and managed to defeat Gu Huizi. Juyu is a master of poison. When Gu Huizi was about to successfully kill the prince and Su Mingxiu, he fell into Zhuyu's way, which caused the suppressed poison in his body to be released, and he died from the poison. In the book, Zhuyu and Gu Huizi are rivals. If Su Mingxiu is allowed to find Zhuyu's sister again in this life, Zhuyu will become her and Gu Huizi's enemy. Su Wan was filled with sorrow, and finally understood that the general plot of a key character could only be revealed when he saw the person in person. Su Wan suppressed the turbulent emotions in her heart and clenched the bracelet in her hand. In the previous life, Zhuyu gave this bracelet to Su Mingxiu, and it was because of this bracelet that Su Mingxiu came to this person. If I give her this life, will the plot go awry? I think this bracelet is quite popular. Today is my birthday, so I will treat it as your birthday gift to me. Su Wan smiled and put the bracelet into her sleeve pocket and bowed to him. Do you want to go down the mountain? Exactly. Zhuyu handed over his hand and left without asking about Su Wan's origin and name. Su Wan watched Zhuyu leave with a serious look on her face. Did Zhuyu do the poison in Emperor Jing's body? Mo Chen's eyes wanted to stick to Su Wan's sleeves and cut a hole for the bracelet to fall out. Ms. Gu, you are a married woman. You can't just accept things from other men, right? Mo Chen refused to give up and tried to persuade Su Wan to throw away the bracelet. I see that Mr. Gu is quite concerned about you, wouldn't he be angry if he knew? Are you angry? Su Wan took out the bracelet and tossed it to play with. That can't be helped, I like this bracelet very much. She put it on her wrist. There is a pair of bracelets, and Sister Zhuyu also has one in her hand. If his sister sees it, she will definitely ask her about it. This time we couldn't let Su Mingxiu find the person first. After Gu Huizi came back, the group went down the mountain. Mo Chen followed behind and hesitated to speak. Gu Huizi glanced at him lightly. Mo Chen glanced at Su Wan's wrist. Gu Huizi looked around and saw the Zhuyu bracelet on her white wrist, and his face suddenly darkened. Huh, Su Wan looked at the stone tablet. The chess piece she threw in was dug out. She raised her eyes and looked in the direction of the top national temple, and asked in a low voice, is there any news from the national temple? No, Mo Chen said suspiciously. Did anyone break the chess game? Su Wan shook his head. The person who could pull out the chess piece she played must be someone who knew chess. Either someone was unwilling to Siewei go down the mountain, or Siewei was unwilling to go down the mountain. Another possibility was that someone wanted to use this cracking method. Take credit. There is a brief introduction to the eldest princess in the book. She was the first child of the late emperor and was loved by all. When he grew up, he married his childhood sweetheart and they were deeply in love. Unfortunately, the good times did not last long. The prince-in-law died of illness in the 5th year after their marriage. The eldest princess did not remarry. She only hoped that her son, who lived in seclusion in the national temple, would come down the mountain and inherit his father's inheritance. In the mid-autumn festival of the 22nd year of Zheng, the eldest princess went to the national temple to visit her son and found Siewei dead in the room. The white-haired man sent the black-haired man away. After the eldest son took care of Siewei's posthumous affairs, he spent the rest of his life with a glass of poisonous wine. Su Wan solved this mess in the hope of changing Siewei's fate. Based on the current situation and the plot in the book, she guessed it was the first one. Someone was unwilling to go down the mountain to Siewei so that he could be killed. If it was the second case, there was nothing she could do. The third type, Su Wan sneered, but she was not afraid of being robbed of her credit. The end game that no one has cracked for so many years is suddenly cracked. If he wants to take credit, Siewei will always set up a hurdle. If you fail to catch Siewei's move, not only will you get no credit, but you will also get into trouble. Su Wan sighed. The eldest princess is a lovely and pitiful old lady. She was very kind to the original owner in the past. She has already helped. If it is of no use, there is nothing she can do. She pursed her lips and put the chess piece back again. Mo Chen, send a letter to the eldest princess's house and tell them that the situation has been solved and ask them to come pick them up. Suwan paused and warned, don't reveal your whereabouts. Gu Huizi knew how to solve the problem, but he was puzzled, which meant that he didn't want the credit. This credit might be a trouble for him. Yes, Mo Chen glanced at the endgame and then at Suwan, with a look of admiration in his eyes. Suwan looked at Gu Huizi. The man was deep in thought and didn't know what he was thinking. She fiddled with the bracelet on her wrist and leaned her head toward him. This bracelet was a gift from Taoist Master Juyu. I have some use for it. Gu Huizi didn't even move an eyebrow and gave a faint hum. The two of them walked all the way down the mountain and returned to Ding Yuanhou mansion. A carriage stopped at the palace gate. Juyu got off the carriage, his legs and feet seemed to be injured, and he limped towards the palace. Su Mingxiu followed closely and called him, Taoist Master Juyu, please wait. She walked over quickly and handed him a bottle of medicine. This medicine is very effective. Apply it to your sprained ankle every morning and evening. You will be able to walk freely in a few days. Juyu's calm eyes stared at Su Mingxiu, her face was filled with a soft smile. He couldn't help but think of Suwan's bright smile in his mind. He clearly felt guilty when he saw him, but he tried his best to suppress it, making nonsense, and the look on my sister's face when she makes a mistake is very similar. He refused. No need. Juyu took out a few pieces of silver from his sleeve and put it on the horse's back. This is the carriage fee. Su Mingxiu watched Juyu leave without looking back, her fingers pinched tightly into her palms. No oil or salt is allowed in. Miss Jingyu said with a worried look on his face, Master Ho has woken up. You don't have to please Juyu anymore. He is just a stinky nose. He really thinks he is a figure by making elixirs for the emperor. Shut up, Su Mingxiu angrily scolded Qingyu, grabbing the 9 desires. She had her own intention. Qingyu remained silent. Su Mi got on the carriage in the snow, returned to Ding Yuanhou mansion, and went directly to see Sujihong. Sujihong is boxing in the yard to keep fit. Father, Su Mingxiu saw Sujihong's eyes turn red instantly, and she rushed toward him like a swallow in the forest. You finally woke up. I'm so scared, afraid of losing you. Sujihong caught Su Mingxiu and patted her back comfortingly. Don't be afraid, I want to live a long life to protect you too. It's great. Our family is still in order. Su Mingxiu let go of Sujihong and said happily, my daughter has good news for you. I can solve the mess left by Xie. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 113. Sujihong looked solemn. Can you crack the chess game? The eldest princess tried her best for her only son, but failed to get him down the mountain. If Su Mingxiu invites the eldest princess down the mountain, the eldest princess will owe Su Mingxiu a favor. Emperor Jing and the regent both respected the eldest princess. Su Mingxiu turned over and it was just around the corner. He said cautiously, is it really broken? It's broken. Su Mingxiu's heart was beating rapidly, and she said without changing her face, you know, every time I go to the national temple, I have to crack the chess game. Every time I crack the chess game, I have a lot of insights. When I came down the mountain today, I felt very depressed, so I tried it casually, but I didn't expect that the chess game was solved. I went out without saying anything and asked you to come up with an idea and go to the Guo temple to find Mr. Xie to solve the chess game. Sujihong showed a proud look and said with a hearty smile, as expected of my Sujihong's daughter, she is extremely smart. He was worried about the long nights and dreams, so he immediately decided, it's better to choose a day than to hit it. I will go to the Guo temple today. You broke the chess game. Su Mingxiu was worried, afraid that Suwan would jump out and she had other plans. Huiyan, Go prepare the carriage. Sujihong made arrangements. Su Mingxiu swallowed the words that reached her mouth and was put on the shelf. At this time, Xia Juan came out of the house and said, Master Marquis, Miss, Madam, are you going out? Sujihong smiled and said, Tell Madam, Shuer will give her a good face, we will go to the National Temple and come back later. Yes, Xia Juan saw that it was a good thing and immediately went in to tell Kinglan. Su Mingxiu waited for a while, but did not hear Kinglan's voice, so she had to follow Sujihong out. After getting on the carriage, he saw Su Wan's carriage approaching, and the two carriages passed by. Su Mingxiu's fingers clenched tightly, her heart in her throat. After several confrontations with Su Wan, Su Mingxiu failed to get any favors. It's just that Su Wan is too shameless, and she wants to be shameless, so she can't fight her. He was afraid that Su Wan would make a big fuss if word came out that he had falsely claimed credit. Although she had no evidence that Gu Huizi had cracked the chess game, the incident was quite disturbing. Su Mingxiu hoped in her heart that Su Wan would leave Beijing as soon as possible. In this way, she took the credit, and when Su Wan returned to Beijing again, the dust had settled. Sujihong had a broken right arm. Instead of riding a horse, he took a carriage with Su Mingxiu. He noticed Su Mingxiu's uneasiness, but he didn't ask any more questions. He just assumed that she was afraid that the eldest princess would not appreciate her. The carriage rushed towards the National Temple, and a low-key carriage passed them by without anyone noticing. Master Marquis, Miss, the National Temple has arrived, the coachman's voice came. Sujihong and Su Mingxiu jumped out of the carriage and headed up the mountain. When they passed the stone monument, Su Mingxiu was stunned. It had been demolished, the pit was filled up, and a pine tree was planted. Su Mingxiu's heart skipped a beat, her head was buzzing, and she had a bad premonition. Sujihong frowned when he saw that the stone tablet was missing. Shuer, have you cracked it yet? Su Mingxiu panicked and almost said, I didn't crack it. Touching Sujihong's deep eyes, Su Mingxiu changed her words, I cracked it, but I took out the chess pieces and went back to the house to inform you first. I didn't go to Mr. Xie immediately. Maybe someone saw it, so I told Mr. Xie sent the letter. Go to the National Temple quickly. Sujihong's face was gloomy, worried that someone would pretend to claim Su Mingxiu's achievements. The group rushed to the National Temple, and Su Mingxiu asked the little novice monk Seiseo, Little Master, where is Mr. Xie? The eldest princess has already thanked the benefactor and came down the mountain. The little novice replied, I have been gone for 2/4 of an hour. Su Mingxiu's expression changed and she looked at Sujihong helplessly. Sujihong muttered, Go back home first. Father. The matter has come to this, we can only go back to inquire about the information before making plans. Sujihong said with a stern look, No one can take credit for your achievements. The eldest princess's kindness must be held in your hands to stabilize your position in the East Palace. Status. Su Mingxiu felt reassured, and after thinking about it, she didn't give Su eye drops at night. The father and daughter rushed back to the Dingyuanhou mansion. Sujihong sent someone out to inquire about the situation in the eldest princess mansion. If there was no movement at the eldest princess's residence, he would arrange for someone to spread the word, and Su Mingxiu would break the endgame set by Xie. The eldest princess's mansion. The eldest princess took her maid to Xie's courtyard. When she opened the courtyard door and saw the scene in the courtyard, the eldest princess couldn't help but pause in her steps. Xie is 8 feet tall, wearing a white gown. He is very graceful, clear, has a dragon-like demeanor, and is naturally noble. The eldest princess's eyes heated up, and she could vaguely see the shadow of the consort on her son's body. Wu Ya, the eldest princess called, with tears in her eyes but a smile on her face, Mother made you 60 meatballs, steamed magnolia slices, and roasted flour duck. Xie looked sideways, his eyes as clear and clean as clear springs. His gaze fell on the eldest princess's frosty white temples, and the corners of her lips pressed down. The eldest princess has a noble status and is pampered, but now she is only in her 40s, but her hair has turned white, which shows that she is feeling very miserable. Siewei walked over slowly and took the food box from her hand. Mom, don't worry about your son. I am living a good life. It has been nearly 20 years since my father passed away. You should let him go and start your life again. It's enough for mother to have you. The eldest princess led Siewei into the house with loving eyes and asked, do you know who cracked the chess game? Someone slipped the letter in through the crack of the door, and the servant didn't see anyone. Siewei opened the lid of the food box and replied calmly, I heard it's Su Mingxiu from Dingyuan Marquis Mansion. Is it her? The eldest princess was surprised, thinking that when Su Mingxiu came to the capital, Qinglan had not yet married Su Jihong, and she was famous for her talents by following Su Wan. Later, after becoming Su Jihong's stepdaughter, she showed her talents and gained a reputation as a talented woman. She was proficient in all kinds of music, calligraphy, and painting. The eldest princess had no doubt, I have to thank her tomorrow. Siewei had no expression and ate gracefully. The eldest princess did not disturb Siewei and told the maid beside her, go and prepare the thank you gifts. I will personally go to the Dingyuan Marquis Mansion tomorrow morning. Yes, the maid went down to prepare a thank you gift. Siewei, who had been calm all this time, suddenly said, I will go with my mother tomorrow. Early the next morning, Su Wan packed her bags and left Beijing with Gu Huizi. Mrs. Su personally went to the door to see them off. Grandma, won't you come with us to Xinghua village? The air in the countryside is pleasant and very clean, which is very suitable for you to recuperate. Su Wan was not sure about letting Mrs. Su stay alone in the capital. Mrs. Su said with a smile, Grandma is waiting for you to return to Beijing. She looked at Gu Huizi. After the provincial examination in August, Huazhong will take the exam, so you and your family will come to the capital. Su Wan looked at Mrs. Su's kind appearance, and reluctantly reached out to hug her. You must write to me often. Okay. Mrs. Su touched her head, Grandma will guard this home for you. Su Wan's eyes were hot and she promised, after the Huai Township examination, I will bring my family to join you. Although he was worried about the old lady staying alone in the capital, Su Wan was also worried that Gu's mother and family were in Xinghua village. She had already planned that if Gu Huizi wanted to pursue an official career, they would have to go to Beijing. He simply returned to his hometown this time, moved his business to the capital, and brought all the Gu family to the capital. Okay, Grandma is waiting for you. Mrs. Su let go of Su Wan and urged, hurry up and hurry up. Don't delay. We will arrive at a small town at noon. Su Wan nodded, turned around and got into the carriage. Take good care of her, Mrs. Su told Gu Huizi. I will. Gu Huizi needed a clear identity, so he had to go through the imperial examination. Mrs. Su watched the carriage slowly drive away until it was out of sight. She was about to return to the mansion when she saw the carriage of the princess's mansion parked at the door. There were also people who heard the news and came in twos and threes. After a while, many people gathered. Siewei helped the eldest princess get out of the carriage. The old lady saluted and said, Your Highness, why did you come to the Marquis mansion today? The eldest princess said, Prince Liang Yuan solved the problem. Yair is finally willing to go down the mountain to reunite with my mother and son. I came here today to thank her. The author has something to say. Ouch, this is a big fat chapter, babies, see you tomorrow, okay. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Baobao. Chapter 114. Mrs. Su's reaction was indifferent. When Su Mingxiu became friends with Su Wan, she accompanied Su Wan to attend banquets in various mansions and showed off her talents. Naturally, she knew that she knew chess. Su Mingxiu solved the problem and asked the eldest princess to accept her love, but she had to make trouble again. Mrsu didn't want the mother and daughter to become a threat to Suwon. Your Highness, this is just a small matter. There is no need to come here. Prince Liangyuan is pure and kind-hearted, but it is nothing more than a little effort. If you are too polite, it will make things difficult for you. Su Mingxiu heard the news and rushed out. When she heard Mrsu's words, her face turned green with anger. In my heart, I hated the old godly woman, and my heart was biased towards Suwon. But now that the matter has come to this, Su Mingxiu can't say that she solves the problem just for merit. Such a utilitarianism will definitely make the eldest princess disgusted. Su Mingxiu forced out a smile and said without caring about fame or fortune, "Aunt, you don't have to be so polite. You are Schwer's elder, and it is Schwer's honor to be able to help you. It's a happy event for my cousin to come back home. It's time for the juniors to pay a visit." At this point, she smiled bitterly, "I am the Crown Prince Liangyuan now, and I am not qualified to visit you." The eldest princess is a shrewd person, how could she not know what Su Mingxiu meant? Yesterday, she sent someone to find out who cracked the game, and soon someone found out that it was Su Mingxiu who cracked the game at the National Temple. You don't need to think about it to know that this is news released by Dingyuan Ho Mansion. For the sake of caution, the eldest princess went to the National Temple to investigate. Su Mingxiu was indeed at the National Temple a few days ago. The little novice monk mentioned that Su Mingxiu would insist on solving the problem every time she went to the National Temple. The day when the end game was solved, Su Mingxiu went down the mountain, and the time coincided very well. Xiehui is the life of the eldest princess, and Su Mingxiu breaks the chess game. No matter how big the favor is, she will pay it back. What's the point? If you want to come to the eldest princess's mansion, just ask Fenrir to bring you here. The eldest princess gave Su Mingxiu a sure promise that she would help restore Su Mingxiu's status as crown princess. Su Mingxiu felt happy and was about to salute. Xiehui, who was on the side, suddenly asked, "Su Liangyuan, was it you who broke the end of the game?" Su Mingxiu looked at Xiehui with watery eyes. His skin had a white color that had not seen the light of day for a long time. His handsome facial features looked particularly bright. His eyes seemed to be uncontaminated by the filth of the world and were very clean. Her cheeks were slightly pink, and she said in a soft voice, "My aunt is living alone in the house, and I feel very sorry for her. I want to help her in whatever way I can. My cousin can go down the mountain, which is great for my aunt. The happiest thing about her." The onlookers heard Su Mingxiu's words and praised her one after another. "Don't tell me, Liangyuan has a good heart, but her background is holding her back." "That's right. I used to meet Liangyuan often in restaurants. She is charitable and a good girl. She would never do anything to steal someone's dowry or fiancé. I also think there is something hidden in it. Marriage matters are all dictated by the parents and the matchmaker, and she can't make the decision. Don't scold her all at once. I think it was the stepwife and Marquis Dingyuan who did it." When Qinglan and Sujihong heard the previous words, they looked at each other with smiles in their eyes. Clearing up Su Mingxiu's matter was effortless. But when they heard the last sentence, Qinglan and Sujihong's expressions darkened. The crowd talked about how good Su Mingxiu was and how she was the rhythm person. They quietly gave Su Mingxiu a wink and left silently. Su Mingxiu breathed a sigh of relief and ignored the moods of Qinglan and Sujihong. As long as her reputation improved and she had the help of the eldest princess, she would be able to become the crown princess again just around the corner. Xiehui remained silent and clapped his hands. The boy immediately took out a small low table from the carriage, placed 2 thick futons at the door, and then placed a chessboard on it. When Su Mingxiu saw this battle, her expression suddenly changed and she subconsciously took a step back. Qinglan pushed her forward and said with pride, "Schwer, Mr. Xie is a master of Go. He is famous all over the world and is a rare opponent. If you play a game of chess with Mr. Xie in public, even if you don't beat him, You can if you fight him to a draw, you will become famous in Jizhu. There was encouragement in Sujihong's eyes. Shwe'er, don't be afraid, Dad will support you. It doesn't matter even if you lose, after all, few people can defeat him. It's already amazing that you can solve his mess. Su Mingxiu has no master, and Xie has set up a mess in his teenage years that he can't even break. After so many years, his chess skills must have become more and more sophisticated, and it would be difficult for her to catch up with him. Su Liangyuan, please. Xie lifted up his robe, sat cross-legged on the futon, stretched out his hand towards the opposite side, and said solemnly, when I set up the endgame, I once left a sentence. Whoever can crack the endgame, play a game with me. If he beats me, he will agree to a condition. If he only solves the endgame and doesn't beat me, it won't count. Su Mingxiu's face turned pale. Did she have to fight hard? I came down the mountain yesterday specifically for the person who could solve the endgame. I played a game of chess with him and got my wish. Xie noticed that Su Mingxiu's expression was wrong. He frowned and said bluntly, why are you so hesitant? The endgame is solved, is there a hidden secret? Su Mingxiu's heart skipped a beat, and she quickly sat cross-legged on the futon, forcing out a smile. Cousin, it took me several years to crack your mess. And that was your level when you were a teenager. Now 10 years have passed. I'm afraid your chess skills have made a qualitative leap. How can I be your opponent? When Qinglin heard this, she realized the seriousness of the problem. She nudged Sujihong with her elbow and asked him to say a word to Su Mingxiu. Shwe'er's loss is too ugly. Mr. Xie doesn't admit it, so our work will be in vain. Sujihong had a kind of enchanting confidence in Su Mingxiu, and he thought he was fair and said, Mr. Xie, just play chess with Shwe'er at the same level as when you were a teenager. The eldest princess was originally impatient and wanted to stop Xie's unreasonable request. It was obvious that Su Mingxiu had already sat down to challenge, and Sujihong was helping her. Su Mingxiu must be very good at chess. She calmed down a little and persuaded Wei from the side, Marquis Dingyuan is right, you should show the level you did when you were 10 years old, and you can't bully girls. Xie's eyes were full of disapproval. For me to play against Su Liangyuan at a teenage level is not only disrespectful to Go, but also an insult to Su Liangyuan. Su Mingxiu bit her lip, but she wanted to say that I am not afraid of your insult. Okay. Xie looked impatient, holding a black chess piece in one hand and a white chess piece in the other, and placed the pieces on the chessboard. After a while, the chess pieces were crisscrossed on the chessboard. His face was expressionless and he said with a little emotion, this chess game is similar to the chess game on the stone tablet. If you can break the endgame, this endgame will not be a problem for you. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Baobao. Chapter 115. Su Mingxiu was stunned. She just had some ideas about the endgame on the stone tablet. Even if it was broken by Gu Huizi, she looked at the broken chess game and reviewed it twice, but she could only see a little bit of tricks. Xie used the same idea to play a different chess game, which was considered as complying with the words of Sujihong and the eldest princess. But to Su Mingxiu, it was like a wordless heavenly book that she could not understand at all. When Qinglin heard this, she felt that although Xie was upright and had a weird temper, he was good at talking. She urged Su Mingxiu, Shwe'er, Mr. Xie's chess game is similar to the one you cracked before. Hurry up and break it up earlier. You have to go back to the palace. She put her hands on Su Mingxiu's shoulders and pressed down slightly, hinting to Su Mingxiu to end the game as soon as possible and let the eldest princess enter the palace with her while it was still early to enhance her reputation. Su Mingxiu's fingers trembled slightly as she picked up a white chess piece and stared at the chessboard with dark eyes. She felt so regretful that if she knew that after solving the problem, she would still need to pass the test of Xie, she would never pretend to take the credit. If you can't crack it and suffer the humiliation of Siebwe, not only will you get no benefits, but you will also lose your reputation. No, 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 she cannot be ruined, she must be rescued. Sumixu twisted the chess pieces, unable to make a move. A layer of cold sweat broke out on her palms. She kept reviewing the previous endgame in her mind. The more she thought about it, the more she had no ideas. Her mind was in chaos, and she became more anxious. Cold sweat dripped down. Blurred vision. There's no rush, she can't be in a hurry. Sumixu tried her best to calm down while trying to calm herself down. The confused mind became blank. She struggled desperately, and the moment Siebwe made a move, she gritted her teeth and settled the chess pieces. Siebwe looked at the chess pieces played by Sumixu, half opened his eyes, and looked at Sumixu seriously. You did not crack the chess game. No. It's me, Sumixu retorted sharply. Siebwe unhurriedly put the chess pieces into the chess basket one by one. Tell me how to solve the endgame. Sumixu clenched her fingers and defended with lack of confidence. I hit it by mistake. Siebwe collected the chess pieces and pointed at Sumixu's pale face. When people lie, their eyes wander and they dare not look directly at the person involved. Besides, no one has cracked the chess game I set up for many years. You really cracked it, you should be extremely confident. If I ask you to play chess, you can have any expression, but you won't be timid. You back down. Siebwe hit the nail on the head. There is a look of regret in your eyes. What do you regret? Do you regret lying and taking credit from others? No, no, I didn't. Sumixu knocked the chess piece over with a snap. The blood on her face faded, and she said hastily and uneasily, I told you that every time I go to the Guo temple, I will solve the endgame. This time it's if there was someone else who cracked the chess game. Why did they hide and give me this opportunity to become famous? Not everyone is as greedy for fame and fortune as you are, Siebwe said mercilessly. Things that are not yours, and things that are stolen from them, will not belong to you. He glanced at the boy. The boy tidied up the chessboard with a wink. Siebwe stood up and prepared to leave. Sumixu went to grab Siebwe's sleeve in a hurry. Siebwe raised his hand to avoid it and said unhappily, dirty. Sumixu's face turned pale, looking like she was suffering from humiliation. The eldest princess did not expect that things would turn around. She was afraid that Siebwe would go to the national temple again, and wanted to speak for Sumixu, but looking at his lack of grace, she knew that he was angry. The eldest princess felt distressed and no longer insisted on letting Siebwe go down the mountain. Let's go back to the mansion. If you want to stay in the mansion, just stay in the mansion. If you want to live in the national temple, mother misses you, so she goes to the national temple. Looking for you. I'm not going to the national temple, Siebwe said seriously. I want to find the person who can crack the chess game. Okay, mother will send someone to help you find it. The eldest princess was very indulgent and left in a carriage with Siebwe. There was silence at the entrance of Ding Yuanho mansion for a moment, and then there was an instant burst of noise. It's not Suliang Yuan who solved the endgame. How can this be false? Who is Mr. Xie? Does he need to slander Suliang Yuan? She wouldn't know the same chess game if she played it in another way. She must not have cracked it. Like mother, like daughter, they both like to steal other people's things. I wonder if the people she took the credit for are okay now. Everyone immediately fell silent and looked at Sumixu as if they were looking at a dirty thing. I don't know who took the lead in throwing rotten vegetable leaves at Sumixu. The others peeled off the vegetables in the vegetable basket and smashed them with vegetable sticks. Ah! Sumixu grabbed the rotten vegetable leaves on her head, and the rotten smell made her gag. Come on, arrest these lunatics quickly. Sumixu was about to collapse. She screamed and hid behind Qinglan and Sujihong. Someone spat on the ground. Shameless bitch, specializes in making money and killing people. Your Majesty is wise, knowing that a person like you is not worthy of his morality, so he demoted you to a concubine. Sujihong's face was livid, and with a wave of his hand, the guards from the mansion rushed out. He killed someone. Marquis Dingyuan used his power to bully others and killed someone. The people shouted and dispersed. Su Mingxiu's face turned pale, and she was trembling all over. She looked at herself in a state of embarrassment, her eyes were red, and she asked Sujihong for help weakly, "Father." Sujihong said with a disappointed look on his face, "You go back to the East Palace first. With your status, you cannot stay in your natal family for a long time. The prince is extremely gracious to let you visit your relatives at home." Before Su Mingxiu could say anything, Sujihong strode back home. Su Mingxiu's heart plummeted into the ice cave, and tears fell down. "Mother, father," he snapped. Qinglan raised her hand and slapped Su Mingxiu on the face. She was shaking with anger. She pointed at Su Mingxiu's nose and yelled, "You're useless. You can't even solve a chess game. What's the use of you? No need to call me mother, I don't have a daughter as embarrassing as you." The whip wounds on her body burst apart, causing Qinglan's face to twist in pain, and she yelled at Jiajuan, "You are a dead person, and you can't move here. Why don't you help me back to the yard?" Jiajuan helped Qinglan to leave cautiously. Su Mingxiu's tears were streaming down her face. Looking at the mess on the ground and the stench at the gate, she fell into deep despair and did not dare to think about the consequences she was about to face. At this time, a carriage stopped at the door, and two rough nuns jumped out of the carriage. One of them grabbed one of Su Mingxiu's arms. "Su Liangyuan, the slaves are here to take you back to the palace on the order of the prince." There was fear in Su Mingxiu's eyes, and she struggled and said, "You bitch, let me go, I will kill you with a stick." The rough lady had a straight face, pinched the soft flesh around Su Mingxiu's waist, and sneered, "Su Liangyuan, you made such a big mistake, you will stay in the cold palace until you die." The author has something to say. Babies, see you tomorrow, good night mmm. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 116. Su Mingxiu was struck by five thunders, struggling desperately, shouting towards Dingyuan Haofu, "Help me, someone come and help me. Dad, mother, I don't want to die, please help me." Su Mingxiu's mouth was blocked. The rough lady dragged her into the carriage and immediately blocked her mouth with a rag and tied her hands and feet with hemp ropes. "It's useless for you to cry out to Po Tian. I am acting under the orders of the prince. Who dares to save you?" Mammy took an embroidery needle and pierced Su Mingxiu's body, and sneered, "I'm waiting for you to kill me with your stick." Su Mingxiu curled up into a ball in pain and twitched all over. The old grandma had a fierce look on her face and drew a long bloody mark on her face. If this face is ruined, her future will be completely cut off. Su Mingxiu's eyes widened, as if they were about to pop out of her sockets, tears welled up in large drops, and her eyes were full of despair. Su Wan hung the car curtains on the car wall, rested one hand on the edge of the car window, and played with the hosta given to her by Gu Huizi with the other hand. The gentle breeze blew on my face, and my thoughts drifted away. Hairpins are tokens of love, so this man gave her too. A wooden hairpin carved by one's own hands and a jade hairpin. She turned her eyes and looked at the man beside her. He lay casually on his side on the carriage blanket, supporting his head with one hand. His soft black hair was spread all over the floor. His sleeping face was particularly soft, lacking the coldness and alienation he usually had. Su Wan got off the stool and sat cross-legged next to him, resting her elbows on her knees and staring at his face. When she got closer, she realized that his eyelashes were long and curled, which made her feel like she was being pawed by a cat. I scratched an itch and wanted to touch it with my hands. Thinking of this, Suwon really did it? The moment her fingers touched his eyelashes, she was held by a cold hand and pulled away with great force. Suwon fell down with her center of gravity unsteady. Gu Huizi opened his hand, and Suwon fell into his arms. He brushed the hair off his face, which smelled faintly of an elegant floral fragrance. "What are you doing?" Gu Huizi's voice sounded hoarse from just waking up. Suwon met his slightly hazy eyes, which were clear and bright, lacking the usual darkness and sharpness, which made people feel weak. She stretched out a finger and poked his cheek. "Your eyelashes are so long, I'm curious to touch them." As soon as she finished speaking, Suwon looked into his dark eyes, and her heart suddenly it started beating faster and faster, and she pursed her lips. "Would you like me to touch you?" Gu Huizi stared at her red lips that opened and closed. No, he flipped her over and raised his hand to pinch the bridge of her nose. "Be calm." Suwon pouted. Lying down was indeed more comfortable than sitting, so she simply lay down on the blanket. This man is too arrogant and is still angry about Juyu's bracelet. She hooked the bracelet around her wrist and took it off, placing it in his palm with a snap. Okay, can you keep it for me?" Gu Huizi looked at the bracelet in his palm, his eyebrows beating. Let him keep the bracelet given to her by another man? It would be considered a mercy of him to throw him into a fire pit and burn him. Gu Huizi had a headache and said, "Suwon, please be more careful." He threw the string over. Suwon caught the bracelet and watched Gu Huizi sitting on a stool, taking out a book and reading it. She lowered her eyebrows, looked at the bracelet in her hand, and rubbed the word 9 desires engraved on the beads with her thumb. Juyu's origin is unknown. It is revealed in the book that he does not seem to be from the Zhou dynasty. Suwon sighed. He didn't want to make a strong enemy and had to find his sister before Sumixu. She stuffed the bracelet into her sleeve pocket. Gu Huizi's tight lips relaxed slightly, and he turned a page of the book with his well-jointed fingers. Suwon sat next to him, touched his arm with her arm, and opened a pair of bright black eyes. "Huh? Why did you give me the hosta?" Gu Huizi didn't even raise his eyes, and said calmly, "You are the eldest lady of the Ho family, wearing a wooden hairpin is too shabby." Suwon broke the casserole and asked, "Then why did you give me the wooden hairpin?" Gu Huizi paused while flipping through the book, raised his head, and stared at her calmly. "Does a husband and wife need a reason for giving away items?" Suwon was speechless as she was speechless. Gu Huizi saw her angrily pointing the back of her head at him, with the corners of her mouth raised slightly. He was about to say something. The carriage suddenly shook violently, and he suddenly grabbed Suwon's arm, protecting the back of her head with his palm. Dong! Suwon's head hit the car wall and she didn't feel any pain at all. She turned her head, and Gu Huizi had let go of her and raised the curtain. "What's going on?" Amo Chen quickly said, "Mr. Gu, a girl fell in the middle of the road." Gu Huizi's eyebrows darkened and he looked at the young woman on the ground. If the horse's hoof moved forward 1 inch, it would break her neck. "Lift the person out of the way." Gu Huizi threw down the curtain. Suwon frowned. "The little girl seems to be in a coma. I'll go check on her." She quickly jumped off the carriage, ran quickly towards the girl, and instructed Mo Chen to carry her to the roadside. Gu Huizi was worried about Suwon and got out of the carriage. Mo Chen moved the woman to the side of the road. Suwon squatted next to the girl, took her hand to feel her pulse, frowned, and looked at her skinny hand. This man suffered from long-term malnutrition, was weak, and fainted from hunger. Mo Chen, go get a pot of water and a pack of snacks from the carriage. Suwon put down the girl's hand, held up her head, and brushed away the hair that was blocking her face, revealing a face as big as a palm. His eye sockets were sunken, his skin was sallow, and there was foam at the corners of his mouth. He was so dirty that his original appearance could not be seen clearly. Here Mo Chen handed over the water bag. Suwon opened her mouth and stuffed the water bag into her mouth. The girl tasted the water and swallowed hard unconsciously. After drinking half the bag of water, she finally woke up. A pair of beautiful eyes, as clear as autumn water, stared at Suwon in confusion and ignorance. The girl blinked her eyes, and suddenly her pupils shrank, like a frightened deer in the forest. Wet and panicked, she got up from Suwon's arms, knelt down opposite Suwon, and anxiously clutched the hem of her clothes, stumbling. Baba asked, "You saved me." Suwon stuffed a water bag and a pack of snacks into her arms. "You fainted from hunger. Fill your stomach first." She watched the woman staring blankly at the food in her hands. The straw sandals on her feet were worn out. The soles of the feet were covered with a layer of dark brown blood scabs mixed with mud, which hurt just looking at them. Suwon said softly, "Where are you going? If you are on the way, we will give you a ride." "No, no, no. No need." Jug glanced at the carriage, pulled her tattered and slovenly clothes, shrank back, and said warily, "We are not going along the way." She pointed in the opposite direction. I'm going over there." Warm reminder, if you find that clicking the next page will force you to jump to other websites, please use the chapter error or contact us at the bottom to inform us. We will handle it as soon as possible. Thank you for your understanding. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 117. Suwon saw her defensiveness, and he was just a stranger to her. What happened to the little girl? It is obvious that she has suffered a lot. She didn't force herself. She took out 2 taels of silver from her sleeve and put it in the little girl's hand. "This is a package for you, for food and travel expenses." Suwon stood up with her hands on her knees, took off her embroidered shoes and placed them in front of her, then called Gu Huai's carriage to leave. Jug stared at Suwon's back blankly, never expecting that the person she met by chance would give her 2 taels of silver and food without her having to pay for it. "Apart from my brother, are there any good people in this world?" Jug held Yinza's left hand and touched her skinny right arm. It was covered with hideous whip wounds, knife wounds, and burns. It was obvious at a glance that she had suffered inhuman torture. She lowered her eyes at the water and food in her hands and remembered her brother's words. He said, "All the unprovoked good things in the world either happen for a reason or have other motives. Gear, be obedient and don't accept other people's good things easily." There was mist in Jug's eyes, and she clenched the food with her fingers, wanting to throw it away, but she escaped and hadn't eaten for many days. Only when she was extremely hungry would she eat bark and wild vegetables to cushion her stomach. The sweet aroma of the snacks emanated from the oil-wrapped paper, which made her stomach growl and feel pain. She wanted to eat it so much that she didn't have the courage to throw the snacks out. But she had to listen to her brother's words. Jug swallowed his saliva, threw the food on the ground, got up and prepared to leave. Suddenly, her eyes paused, staring at a string of eye-catching red beads in the green grass on the ground. Jug's expression suddenly changed, and she picked up the bracelet on the ground with excitement. Confirming that it was her brother's bracelet, her fingers trembled slightly and tears rolled down her face. "My brother is still alive. It's so good." Jug remembered something and suddenly looked at the carriage that was going away. Only the dust was flying. She suddenly picked up a pair of shoes and food on the ground and chased after the carriage in the direction it left. "Wait for me, you guys, wait for me." Jug held back his energy and chased after him. Thick scabs formed on the soles of his feet, which were worn away by the stones, leaving bloody marks with each step. Thump. Jug gasped for air, his legs were weak and he fell to the ground, eating a mouthful of ashes. She looked at the carriage without a trace, tears streaming down her face. Suddenly, She jumped up and wiped away her tears with both hands. Her eyes, washed by tears, were clean and firm. She must find her brother. Jug continued to chase in the direction of Suwon. This time when they returned to their hometown, Suwon and Gu Huizi did not rush. They walked normally and arrived at Xinghua village 5 days later. As soon as the carriage entered the village, Suwon heard a neighbor shouting in a loud voice, "Lu Gaixiang, your Gu Dalan and his daughter-in-law are back. Why don't you go home quickly?" Mo Chen asked the coachman to stop the carriage. Suwon handed a baggage to Mo Chen. "You give these dried fruits to the neighbors." Okay. Mo Chen came down carrying a big baggage, took out dried fruits and gave them to the neighbors. The neighbors' mouths were as sweet as honey, and they said many festive words. Gu's mother rushed over at this time, opened the car curtain, her face was red from the sun, and forced out a big smile. "Back, Wan, you are back so soon." Suwon pulled Gu's mother into the carriage and threw herself into her arms. "I miss you. I will come back with Huizi as soon as the matter is settled." Wan, please let go. I'm covered in stinky sweat and I've soiled you." Mother Gu immediately pulled Suwon's hand away and winked at Gu Huizi anxiously. Gu Huizi was immovable and liked Suwon being close to Gu's mother. "You're not dirty. I came back from the capital. The journey was dusty and I smell of sweat." Suwon saw that Gu's mother was uncomfortable, so she let go of her hand, took out a bamboo tube and handed her a bottle of water. "Why don't you come here today, going to a restaurant?" Gu's mother's hands were stained with mud and she clenched the bamboo tube nervously. "The restaurant's business is booming. Every time the restaurant is full of guests, there are still many diners queuing up." The shopkeeper made a calculation in his mind. "The flavor restaurant opposite has closed down. You are here in this restaurant. The business is definitely getting more and more prosperous, so we have taken over the Yanzi building and are renovating it. We will all have a holiday and we will reopen the day after tomorrow." "Yanzi building," Suwon frowned. "Did shopkeeper Zhang sell out the shop?" A smile appeared on Gu's mother's face. "Shopkeeper Zhang said that we are all our own people, so we don't need to be too outspoken. The business of Yanzi restaurant has improved, so he bought the former flavor restaurant and opened it together with the restaurant the day after tomorrow. You are welcome here. In time, the two shopkeepers will definitely be happy to know." Suwon laughed happily. "I didn't expect that things would change so much during the time I left. Then I have to go to the town tomorrow to have a look." Gu's mother didn't expect Suwon to have such ability. She should have been happy for Suwon, but the more capable Suwon was, the more uncomfortable she felt. Gu Huizi was weak and could not achieve anything. Everyone said that regardless of their family background, in terms of personal abilities, the two of them were not well matched. She was worried that Suwon would go further and further away, and one day she and Gu Huizi would part ways. Gu's mother's throat was a little dry and she asked, "Wan, Huizi went to see your family. What did they say?" Seeing her nervous look, Suwon squeezed Gu's mother's hand and said with a smile, "Grandma likes Huizi very much, and she has prepared gifts for you and your second brother and 3 sisters." Gu's mother was stunned and said, "Really? Don't you dislike Gu Huizi's humble background?" Grandma praised him for being very capable. He was admitted as a scholar at a young age, and he will be a man of great ability in the future. Suwon glanced at Gu Huizi and leaned her head on Gu's mother's shoulder. "Huizi's health is about to be cured. Well, he is going to fail in this provincial examination. You wait for him to earn your fame." Gu's mother was shocked. "Is it cured?" She looked at Gu Huizi for confirmation. Gu Huizi nodded slightly. Mother Gu's tears rolled down her face. God opened her eyes and finally began to care for the old Gu family. "Okay, earn some fame and come back." Gu's mother felt half happy and half sad, as if she was elated. Her back straightened. "I have an explanation for the old Gu family." When the carriage stopped, Gu's mother wiped away her tears and opened the curtain with excitement. When she saw Mr. Hu standing at the door, she lowered the curtain again. Wan, MRS Hu is here. Gu's mother's face darkened. Song Dalan is in jail. Song Erlang was admitted as a scholar, and he will also fail in this provincial examination. Because of Song Dalan's incident, their family has a grudge against our family. No, I know what MRS Hu is trying to do when she comes here, so don't talk to her. Suwon remembered that MRS Hu had helped her once, and after thinking about it, she got off the carriage. When MRS Hu saw Suwon, she knelt on the ground. The author has something to say. Good night, babies, see you tomorrow, okay. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Baobao. Chapter 118. Suwon stopped and helped MRS Hu up with both hands. If you have something to say, please say it. No need to kneel down. Madam Hu got up, her eyes were red, and she choked with sobs. MRS Hu, I have something to ask you for help. You. She glanced at MRS Hu, who was standing next to the carriage, and looked at her with a dark face and fierce eyes. Hearing the warning, Mr. Hu winced, pointed to the leafy tree nearby, and muttered, "Can you go there?" Go Suwon walked over first. MRS Hu quickly followed, and Mother Gu's eyes stared at her, like a gleam on her back. What do you want me to help you with? Suwon faced MRS Hu. In less than a month, she had become completely thin and out of shape, her face was haggard, and her eyes were dull. She couldn't help but think of the little girl she rescued on the roadside. Suwon frowned. Juyu's bracelet most likely fell out of his sleeve when he gave the little girl money. I wonder if Moun found the bracelet when he rushed back. MRS Hu helped Suwon before to make plans for her future, hoping that Suwon could help her at the critical moment. When it came to this moment, she found it difficult to speak, feeling that her heart was too dirty. But compared to the hopeless life of never seeing the light of day, MRS Hu gritted her teeth and said bravely, I want to leave the Song family. If I stay here any longer, I will die and be tortured to death by Zhang. I don't have the ability to leave. My brothers on my mother's side are unreliable. I have no choice but to ask you to help me. I know how to work, even the dirty work. Madam Gu, please take me away from the Song family. MRS Hu's face was full of tears, and she knelt on the ground and begged Suwon. Before Suwon could say anything, Gu's mother came over aggressively, dragged MRS Hu up from the ground, and said fiercely, "What do you want to do by kneeling down all the time? Let others see your gossip. I said Wan would bully you." Ever since Song Dalan paid someone to ambush Suwon on the road and try to destroy Suwon's legs, Gu's mother had hated the Song family deeply. Go away and don't cause trouble for Wan. The evil woman named Zhang found out and came to cause trouble for Wan again. Gu's mother couldn't help but push MRS Hu aside and drove her away. Go back quickly. MRS Hu glanced at Gu's mother timidly. She quickly lowered her head and left Gu's house in a hurry. Mother Gu was right, she was reckless. Zhang knew that if she came to Suwon, she would not only bring trouble to Suwon, but also beat her even harder. MRS Hu made a circle and returned to Song's house from the entrance of the village. When she opened the door, MRS Zhang stood in the shadows with a straight face and dark eyes staring at her. Hu's face turned pale with fright, and her whole body was shaking uncontrollably. She opened her mouth, trying to find an excuse, but when she saw Zhang coming over, she suddenly shut up. "Where have you been?" Zhang said suddenly, her tone could be described as gentle. When Hu heard it, she felt panicked and a cold sweat broke out on her back. "No. I didn't go anywhere." MRS Hu's throat was tight and her teeth were chattering. She said tremblingly, "Just weeding in the field at the entrance of the village." Oh, Zhang nodded, as if he believed her words, "Go and cook." MRS Hu loosened her clenched fingers, her palms were covered with cold sweat, Her tense body relaxed, her shoulders slumped, and she walked towards the kitchen. Amrs who screamed in pain. Bitch. I'll beat you to death, you bitch. You're a bitch who cheated on you, tipped off Suwon's bastard hooves, and killed my uncle Jiang's eyes were scarlet, and she grabbed Hu's long hair, snapping, slapped her across the face, and kicked her hard on the soles of Hu's feet. Hu fell to the ground with a bang. Go find Suwon and ask her to take you away. Why are you coming back? Why? You are of no use to Suwon and she refuses to help you. Why don't you come back with your tail between your legs to give me a lesson, Zhang said with a look on her face. He kicked him hard with his feet. Hu curled up in pain, holding her stomach and groaning in pain. Zhang lost his mind and kicked him mercilessly. You go away, why don't you go? You are a black-hearted scumbag, and you are begging for nothing in the Song family. I will see if I don't punch out your intestines. Hu hugged her head, sharp pain came from her body, and her fists and feet fell on her like knives. She couldn't bear it anymore and begged for mercy. I didn't run away, please spare me, help, help dash. Boom. Bitch, go to hell. Give me a life. Mrs. Zhang picked up a bench and chopped it down on Mrs. Hu's head. Hu's head seemed to have been split open. Severe pain hit her. Shouts rushed out of her throat. Her vision went black and she lost consciousness completely. Mrs. Zhang was kneeling on the ground, panting heavily, her chest heaving violently, staring at Mrs. Hu on the ground. Blood flowed from her hair, staining the earthen floor red. Bitch, this is what happens when you turn your elbows outward. Zhang stood up unsteadily. Song Erlang stopped when he heard the noise, then opened the door and came out. He looked at the scene in the middle of the hall expressionlessly. He frowned. Mom, find a doctor. Beat me to death. You are a murderer, how can I take the imperial examination? The provincial examination is about to happen, I can't make any mistakes. When Zhang heard this, he regained his senses a little. Although he was scared, he said reluctantly, if she dies, she will die. Who knows? This bitch killed your elder brother and deserved to die. I'll wait until dark later. He was taken to the mountains to dig a hole and bury it. You have enmity with Suwon. Now that she is back, she will definitely keep an eye on you and accuse you of making mistakes and kill you. Seeing that Zhang was indifferent, Song Erlang took a different approach and persuaded him. I heard that Gu Huizi specially made a mistake this time. He rushed back to the capital just for the provincial examination. He has not been to the academy for several years and has not studied at home, so he will definitely not pass the examination. I am different. The master at the academy said that I am very good at studying and I will definitely pass the examination this time. Mom, think about it. When Gu Huizi was admitted as a scholar, it shocked the entire Guangling prefecture. He didn't pass the exam this time. I passed the exam from the same village as him. Do you think I will become famous in Guangling prefecture? You have a long face. Zhang was a little excited. If her son passed the exam and became famous in Guangling Mansion, he could ask Su Mingxiu for help and get an official position. But she killed her eldest brother. Wouldn't it be too easy to beat her to death like this? Song Erlang saw that Zhang was a little relaxed, and looked at Hu as if he were looking at a dead person. Hu and Suwon were on good terms. You let her play the game and lock up Suwon the day before the provincial examination. Gu Huizi will definitely give up the provincial examination to find her. Then you kill Suwon and Hu to avenge your elder brother. Zhang snorted coldly, it's cheap for this little bitch. Song Erlang looked in the direction of the Gu family with dark eyes. This time, he could only be the person to be elected in Zitown. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Bao Bao. Chapter 119. Suwan looked at the direction who was leaving and sighed in her heart. Who would never have a good life after marrying into the Song family? Now that Song Dalan is dead, her life may be even more difficult. Ms. Who is a good person. Last time Song Dalan set up a trap to break my leg, Mrs. Who reminded me not to go to town the night before. She had a hard time in the Song family, and she came to me for help when she was desperate. Suwan held Gu's arm. He held her mother's arms and led her toward the yard. She is also a poor woman. Gu's mother's face softened slightly, but she still didn't loosen up. She even said more cautiously, "What if Mr. Zhang deliberately asked her to show favor to you? And then, using your soft-heartedness towards Mrs. Hu, what should I do if she deliberately created a raft to cause trouble for you?" Suwan remained silent. There was such a possibility. Mr. Hu is pitiful. She never had a good life when she was married to Song Dalan. Ms. Zhang is a coward who bullies the weak and fears the strong. Ms. Hu wants to survive, but she stood up and dared to fight against Mr. Zhang. How could she suffer so much? Gu's mother has experienced these things, so she knows that there is no use in being weak. If you are not tough, no one can save you. I'm worried that if you take care of Mrs. Hu's affairs, Mrs. Zhang will finally find her weakness and she will shake you out. If you don't get good, you will put yourself in it. Suwan knew that Gu's mother was doing it for her own good, so she comforted her softly, "I will do what I can." Gu's mother knew that Suwan was sensible in doing things, so she went to the kitchen and brought out a bamboo basket. There are not many vegetables at home. I will go to the field to pick some vegetables. You rest, I'll go. Suwan left with the basket. When Gu's mother saw Suwan walking away, she said to Gu Huizi, who was packing boxes and baskets at the side, "The old lady really likes you." "It's acceptable." Gu Huizi ordered Mo Chen to send the things that the old lady had prepared for Gu's mother to her room. Mother Gu felt very uncomfortable as she watched the big and small boxes being moved into the house. "Wan Wan didn't call me mother. She doesn't rely on you." The knife pierced Gu Huizi's heart, accurately and cruelly. "She took me to see the old lady," Gu Huizi defended. Gu's mother sneered, "I just pointed at myself. Before I can move, I can hold my grandson." Gu Huizi. Suwan made a special detour from the Song family to the vegetable field to inquire about the situation, and met a village woman on the way. "Mrs. Gu, are you going to pick vegetables in the fields?" The village woman was very enthusiastic. She grabbed a handful of green vegetables from the basket and put them in Suwan's basket. She smiled with a wrinkled face, "These vegetables are very delicious. It's tender and sweet. You can fry it at home and it will be very crisp and refreshing." Suwan smiled and said, "Thank you, Auntie." The village woman waved her hand, "Why are you so polite? I grew it in my own land." The Song family let out a scream, and then fell silent again. The village woman's face changed greatly. She pulled Suwan and walked quickly past the Song house, and whispered to her, "Ms. Zhang was a vicious woman before, and she spent all day trying to frustrate Mr. Hu. After Song Dalan died, she always said that Mr. Hu was responsible for the harm. The beatings got even worse. It was definitely Zhang, the crazy woman, who beat me just now. If this continues, Mrs. Hu will be beaten to death one day." Suwan's face darkened, and she raised her eyes to look at the Song family yard. She was afraid that Mrs. Zhang knew that Mr. Hu had come to see her, so she would start beating people again. Ms. Hu dug up the ancestral graves of the Song family in her last life, and married into the Song family in this life to pay off her debts. After the village woman said this, she heard the man in the family calling someone, "I'm going to go home and cook for your uncle." Suwan narrowed her eyes and planned to take Mrs. Hu away. Suwan took the vegetables home and told Mother Gu that she would go to Xinglan Medical Center in Zitown. Dr. Zhou suddenly saw Suwan and said in surprise, "Mrs. Gu, you are back now." He led Suwan to the backyard and told her about the medicine. the house you bought. Mr. Gu asked someone to help with the repairs. He had all the ingredients we needed to prepare the medicine. There are 2 doctors and 8 medicine boys who understand medicine in our workshop. There are also about 10 people who help sort out the medicinal materials, bottle them, and deliver them. These are all brought by Mr. Gu. He is really amazing. He is so good. Find all the people in a short time. Suwon was surprised. She didn't expect Gu Huizi to handle it all by himself. How much medicine did we deliver to General Zhao? Our people worked overtime to rush the goods and produced 40,000 to 50,000 bottles. Zhou Langzhong said with a sad face. It may be that General Zhao bought a large amount of wound medicine, and it was revealed that many people came to buy wound medicine, and the orders suddenly surged. I am here. Do you think we should build another workshop and hire more people to do it? Suwon knew in her heart that Zhao Wei was helping her. Last time, Zhao Wei said that he would distribute the medicine to the colleagues he knew. Those people were generals and commanded many soldiers. Maybe it was because the wound medicine was effective, or maybe he was selling Zhao Wei's face to buy the wound medicine from her. You can open an extra workshop, and if it's troublesome, you can hire more people. Suwon looked at the medicine cabinet, which was filled with bottles and cans. You can get some wound medicine and sell it in the medical clinic to build your reputation. Suwon has a lot of people to support, and the more money she has in her hands, the better. When I'm free, I'll develop more special medicines to sell. Dr. Zhou's eyes lit up instantly. Okay, I'll make arrangements right away. Suwon couldn't help laughing when she saw Mr. Zhou leaving excitedly, and prepared to contact Qi Guang. Boom. There was a muffled sound. Suwon turned around and saw a dark bundle hitting the ground, and Qi Guang climbed over the wall and came down. Qi Guang picked up the baggage on the ground and dusted it off. He grinned and said, "Miss, this is something sent to you by the relatives of our soldiers. It's just a little thought. Please accept it." Suwon took the baggage and smelled the aroma of bacon. She said in surprise, "Did you smoke the bacon yourself? I love bacon the most. I smoked it with pine wood myself." When Qi Guang saw Suwon holding the bag and smelling it again and again, he knew that she really liked it. He couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. I have recruited about 10 recruits and have started training. They are in pretty good condition. I can rest assured that you are doing this. The dowry has been brought back. You can find someone to carry it back in the middle of the night and use it as military expenses. Suwon's expression was serious and she could not resist. "I can't refuse." Qi Guang knew Suwon's temperament, so he did not refuse and trusted Suwon even more in his heart. Suwon invited Qi Guang into the house, closed the door and said, "Uncle Qi, I have something to ask you for help." Qi Guanghao patted his chest angrily. "Miss, you're welcome. If you have anything to say, just say it. Our brothers will get through fire and water and we will definitely get things done." Suwon whispered, "Please help rescue Mrs. Hu, the daughter-in-law of our village chief, and disassociate her from the Song family." Qi Guang was startled, a little unexpected. Suwon made a suggestion, "Set up a situation, let Song Erlang get in, and then let Zhang use Hu to pay off the debt. The author has something to say. Good night, babies, see you tomorrow, okay?" Warm reminder, if you find that clicking the next page will force you to jump to other websites, please use the chapter error or contact us at the bottom to inform us. We will handle it as soon as possible. Thank you for your understanding. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Baobao. Chapter 120. After Qi Guang returned, he acted resolutely and sent several people to Xinghua village to inquire about the Song family's situation. Soon, Qi Wu came back and said to Qi Guang angrily, "Boss, the Song family is nothing. Zhang is Sumixu's aunt and has caused a lot of trouble for the eldest lady. Zhang joined forces with Boss Song. If you want to deal with the eldest lady, you will suffer the consequences in the end. Song Dalan died in prison, and the Song family will hold a grudge against the eldest lady, so staying here is simply a hidden danger. Chi Guang's eyes were sharp. Where is Mr. Hu? Mr. Hu once tipped off the eldest lady about this matter. I don't know where Zhang knew it. He will torture Hu to death, Chi Wu said with hatred. Boss, we have to take Mrs. Hu away quickly, otherwise he will be beaten to death by Zhang. Chi San interrupted. Song Erlang is in the town tavern. Chi Guang narrowed his eyes. You two come with me to the town. The eldest lady's benefactor is their benefactor and must not be bullied. The group of people discussed a plan, disguised themselves, and entered the tavern. Song Erlang was having a drink with several classmates, and the provincial examination would start in 10 days. Song Erlang, you are really good. There are only a few people in our academy who have been admitted to the scholar examination this year. You are one of them, ranking 3rd overall. With this score, it will not be a problem for you to pass the provincial examination. Li Kuan Yu picked up the wine bottle and handed it to him. Song Erlang sat on the chair and leaned back in the chair as if he was boneless. He lazily raised the wine bottle towards Song Erlang and said as a toast, let us first pay respect to the future master of Juran. As soon as Li Kuan Yu finished speaking, he took a big sip of wine. Song Erlang was so happy to be praised that he drank the wine in one gulp. He said humbly, it's just good luck. Brother Li praises me too much. Li Kuan Yu was the son of a businessman. He was not good at studying, but he had everything he could do in food, drink, prostitution, and gambling. Song Erlang was both jealous of Li Kuan Yu and looked down upon him very much. But I had to play with him because Li Kuan Yu was very generous. Li Kuan Yu was a good man, so why didn't he know that Song Erlang regarded him as his scapegoat? He sneered coldly in his heart, watching Song Erlang pretending, and said playfully, Erlang, are you 17 or 18 years old now? You don't have a woman to warm the Kong at home, are you lonely at night? Why is Erlang so lonely? The eldest brother in the family is gone, leaving him with a widowed sister-in-law. She is still in her 9th year and has no children. Erlang can have 2 wives, plant a seed in his eldest sister-in-law's belly, and give it to his eldest brother. Stay here later. Fang Yushan chuckled and said, Erlang is really lucky. 2 years ago, the court abolished the rule that brothers should keep filial piety for their elders. Not only did you not wait 3 years to take the imperial examination, but you also got a woman for nothing. Song Erlang's face darkened, and then he heard Fang Yushan continue, you are a scholar now, and you will be an official in the future. If you go to a brothel to work with prostitutes and are found out, you will end your career. Your family is poor, but even though you are a scholar, which rich girl is willing to marry you? When you are named on the gold medal list, and a high-ranking minister in the capital captures your son-in-law, you will reach the sky in 1 step. Fang Yushan smiled very obscenely, your sister-in-law will just let you enjoy it, and it will be more exciting than the women outside. Song Erlang's face turned red. Although Hu was somewhat pretty, she was tortured by Zhang into a human shape. He felt sick just looking at her. But when Fang Yushan said this, he felt shamefully moved. Li Kuan Yu yelled at the side, Erlang won't dare, right, he said to Fang Arida, don't teach Erlang a bad way, toast him a glass of wine and apologize for his sins. Yes, 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 look at my mouth. Erlang is not the same as us. He will be a high official in the future. Fang Yushan patted his mouth and held up a glass of wine to Song Erlang, Erlang, come and go, just pretend that my brother didn't say this. Song Erlang sneered, who doesn't dare? Fang Yushan is right. My eldest brother died early and left no son and a half. I am the mother of 2 and sleep with my sister-in-law. Who dares to say anything? This is Erlang. Fang Yushan gave a thumbs up and then said, is your sister-in-law willing? She has to be willing even if she doesn't want to. If she cuts off the eldest brother's favor, she will be a sinner. Song Erlang picked up the wine glass and tipped it upside down. He did not give Fang Yushan a chance to pour the wine, and humiliated him in public. I don't know how to drink this wine. Drink. Fang Yushan's face instantly darkened. Li Kuan Yu smiled and smoothed things over, filled the cup again and handed it to Song Erlang. Come on, keep drinking. Song Erlang took the wine and drank it. Fang Yushan clenched his fists and looked at Song Erlang, who was chatting and laughing with Li Kuan Yu, anger flashing in his eyes. Chi San and Chi Wu on the other side heard this conversation and pumped their fists angrily, wanting to smash Song Erlang's head. This piece of shit isn't even a human being. Boss, just castrate him so that this beast can't pass the imperial examination and become a eunuch. Chi San slapped the dagger on the table. It seemed that as long as Chi Guang nodded, he immediately rushed over to kill Song Erlang. Chi Guang stared at Song Erlang with a pair of tiger eyes, drained the wine in his glass in one gulp, changed his plan directly, pointed at Fang Yushan and said, "You guys keep an eye on that tall and skinny guy. That guy's name is Fang Yushan. He has a gambling father in his family. He is very poor. He follows Li Kuan Yu and hangs out in brothels and gambling houses all day long." When Chi San went to explore the Song family, he took the opportunity to find out about Song Erlang's interpersonal relationships. A flash of inspiration flashed in Chi Wu's head. Before he could say anything, he saw Song Erlang and his party leaving. They are leaving, should we follow them? Follow me, I have other things to do. Chi Guang went to the gambling house alone. Song Erlang went to the academy and Li Kuan Yu went home. Fang Yushan had nothing to do and his hands itched, so he wandered to the gambling house. 2/4 of an hour later, Fang Yushan was kicked out by people from the gambling house. The guard of the gambling house had a sinister look on his face and spat at him fiercely. "Fang Yushan, you owe the gambling house dozens of taels of silver. If you don't pay back tomorrow, I will chop off your hands." He stepped on the back of Fang Yushan's hand and crushed it hard. Ah! Fang Yushan roared in pain, and veins popped out on his forehead. He begged for mercy. "Brother Niu, give me a few more days, and I will definitely pay back the money." Brother Niu said contemptuously, "Every day of grace, the silver will double. You can't even make these 30 taels. If I give you a few more days of grace, can you come up with 100 taels of silver?" "Brother Niu, it's not impossible to give it a few days." Brother Niu suddenly changed his mind and squatted down to look at Fang Yushan. "You can bring someone to pay the debt." "Brother Niu, I will definitely bring you ahead." Fang Yushan was sweating. He was afraid that Brother Niu would regret it, so he hurriedly said, "I'll just bring you the man today." Brother Niu entered the gambling house with his guards. Fang Yushan didn't dare to delay. He covered his red and swollen fingers and went straight to the academy.